What is the word for 2026 in the real estate market?
I predict the word is steady.
Wow. So you got to find out more about this study in this month's market update. Welcome back to the housing update. My favorite edition, Cheryl, because we get to look back an entire year and prognosticate. I love that word. Thank you, Punxsutawney Phil.
There you go.
For our 2026. So let's get right into it. You are.
I'm Cheryl Stokes with New American Funding.
We just thought you
And
knew
who
her.
are you?
Oh, and I'm Mary Bartos, the Bartos Group of Premier Plus. Very funny. So let's jump into it because there has been a lot of conversation about mortgage rates this year.
As always. And they did decline in 2025.
Mm-hmm.
They did. We still, year after year, 23, 24, 25, they trickled down, but we did not get that giant decline that everybody was watching for.
Right.
And we're not going to get it in 26.
She's already talking about the future, let me tell you. With that, Cheryl, we're seeing also cooling prices. But it depended whether you were a snow state or you were a sand state. South and the West had very different numbers. This slide shows it. And this is for the entire state of whether it was price increases were up or down year over year. Inventory has been rebuilding. And stay tuned for the local stuff or skip to it if you want it. And we'll talk about our inventory. But, you know, what they're seeing, the big white line is basically what 2025 did. You know, I mean, we're kind of in the middle of that inventory from years of 17 to 25.
Yep. And it's rising steadily, and nationally they talk about an inventory shortage that varies from place to place, but it has come up.
Yeah, exactly. Which, you know, we'll tell you is a good thing. So let's talk about the forecast of what's happening. So Realtor.com, what are they saying?
Well, they're saying we expect a housing market that's steadier, but not yet off to the races.
Flat.
It's flat.
Right? That's not horrible. That is not horrible. And Jake Krimmel from Realtor.com, what's he saying?
Well, Jake says we anticipate affordability will improve modestly on average in 2026. This results from our expectations of slightly lower interest rates, modest increases in home prices, and a more balanced market than we've had in recent years.
Yeah. Which makes sense.
Makes sense.
And let's review because maybe, you know, we've been talking about this word affordability, but there's multiple factors in it.
There are rates, prices, and wages, and you have to have a balance of all of those to determine affordability.
Right. So if we look at rates and we look at this graph, you know, it looks like Fannie Mae is the most bullish on bringing rates down. But what do you see on this?
I mean, they are all within 0.2 of each other, so I would have to say, and they're within 0.2 of where we are now. And what we're seeing is that we're projecting the rates to stay in the low sixes. There's not going to be a dramatic drop. We don't see anything on the horizon to have a dramatic increase either. They're just going to stay right here for a while.
I totally agree. I totally agree with that. From what they're saying, I'm with you. And we haven't really seen them move much.
No, and for all of the news that you hear one way or the other that may cause the rates to move, it's not going to happen until it happens, and really everything is pointing to just a steady set of rates for 2026.
Absolutely. Now, when it comes to price growth, there's 13 analysts have predicted. They've put on their little hats and
Soothsayer hats.
Soothsayer hat, and they've come from MBA being the most conservative at negative 0.3% to National Association of Realtors having an increase in prices of 4%. But across all 13, we're looking at 1.6%. And our favorite word of the day is?
Growth.
Steady.
Steady.
Not a lot of stuff going on.
Not a decline. I mean, that's the thing. We're just going to have a nice steady market, which will be a good change, honestly.
Right. Honestly, it is. So with that, Realtor.com is saying?
Rising incomes, which should outpace inflation, give buyers more purchasing power, helping to shrink the share of a paycheck that has to be put towards the mortgage. The monthly payment to buy the typical home is expected to slip to 29.3% of median income, its first year below 30% since the threshold in 2022.
That's excellent, right?
That's good. Yep.
That's excellent. You see these all day long. Plus, you have ways to increase affordability.
We always have ways to utilize the different tools within lending to increase affordability. But if the market is helping us, that's always a plus.
That's bonus for free.
Yes.
That's bonus for free. And, we had to leave this slide in here, Cheryl, because in this deck, because this really talks about wage growth in blue and home price growth in green. And, you deal with this all day long. What are you seeing?
So I am seeing that affordability is starting to occur. And because of the decrease in rates and some increase in income, I think we're starting to see a real change in affordability. And if you look at this graph and you look at 2021 and the crazy home prices versus the income, it's really nice to see that the income is higher than the home price.
It totally is.
The home prices are going up, but in a smaller percentage in relation to income.
Yeah. Which, and you may be listening to us and saying, I don't need to worry about affordability. I'm a second home. I'm going to pay cash, but what affordability does is it moves the market.
Moves the market and rates overall. So whether your income portion of affordability doesn't matter to you, the location, the inventory, and the price will, and the rates will.
Yeah, right. Even if you don't need one, because the market's going to shift. It's either going to be, there's going to be more or less.
Well, think about it. If we got a huge decrease in rate and we had another housing boom like we did in 2021, even for someone who's not employed and they're buying a second home, if the prices go up, their affordability goes down, their buying power goes down because the price went up.
Absolutely.
So it affects everybody.
And we got a little snack for you in the future about some cool things that may happen here in Florida. So stay tuned or go down and find that extra little snack. So what's Odetta Cushy saying at First American?
National active listings remain higher than a year ago. Looking to 2026, the direction is still up, even if the climb is steady rather than steep. Life events nudge more owners to move. The lock on all those existing homeowners with sub 4% mortgages loosens at the margins, and completions add more options for buyers. And that points to things that you and I have been saying for a long time. Eventually, life is going to tell you you must move.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whatever your current rate is, at some point you may need to move, and that will free up more for new buyers.
Yeah. Love that. Love that. So inventory, again, they say it is expected to rise. Year over year changes. Here's the average of the three. Bright MLS, one of the largest ones in the U.S., Compass and Realtor.com are thinking that inventory is going to increase by 9.9%.
That's a lot.
It's a lot.
This is nationwide.
Nationwide.
Yep.
And we're going to show you again in our section what it did last year and what, honestly, what I'm expecting. And keep in mind, Cheryl, and I'll repeat this again, we are a leading indicator to the rest of the U.S. We go up, price, inventory, whatever is good or bad, and we come down good or bad before everybody else. Because as a second home market, we see that shift first.
Right.
So new construction is going to tick down slightly. Okay, great. We get it. But what is Odetta talking about now?
And this is something we talk about as well. Looking ahead, expect a two-speed market. Leaning inventory in the Northeast and Midwest keeps conditions relatively tight and price growth steadier, while parts of the South and West remain soft.
Which is what we've been talking about all along. Snow states, sand states.
Yep.
Where are you and what does that look like in the market? And even within that market, there's sub-markets. Bright MLS, the chief economist for them, said what?
Lisa says while lower mortgage rates and more inventory will bring some buyers back, this will be a reset year, not a rebound year. Market performance will hinge on local economic conditions, making 2026 one of the most geographically divided markets we have seen in years. And I think we've already started seeing that here.
That's right. That's right. We showed you the map. Are you getting a consistent theme that every analyst, we had to take out a few of the analysts that we had quoted
They're
in
all
here
saying the same
because they're all saying the same thing. So let's look at total sales though. This is nice, Cheryl. This is up 500,000, 400, you do the math, that they're expecting more sales, both new construction and existing.
And I think that leads to the affordability factor. If people can now afford to buy, just that little bit may have made the difference. And people who were holding on to those lower rates now need to move. It turns into more sales.
Yeah, absolutely. And you and I have talked about that. You use that word a little bit because we've talked about the difference in $400. I mean, it's crazy what that does to affordability.
It's huge. It can make or break whether or not someone qualifies for a loan. I tell this story all the time, and it's a very crazy story, but I've had a loan that was hinging on $1 for qualification.
Wow.
So every little bit, plus or minus, makes a big difference in qualification and affordability for most buyers.
Yeah.
Not all, but most.
Yeah. Well, with that said, what did Misha Fisher saying at Zillow?
She said buyers are benefiting from more inventory and improved affordability, while sellers are seeing price stability and a more consistent demand. Each group should have a bit of more breathing room in 2026.
Phew. That's how I feel.
Yes.
So if you're a buyer, you have a little more time to think about it, and as a seller, you're not maybe sitting on the market for forever. Right. We have that, again, balanced, steady, those great normal kind of markets that we like to talk about.
One of those crazy words, normal.
So this is my double secret snack, Cheryl, that I'm going to talk about. So the governor in the state of Florida has been talking for some time about not having Florida property income tax.
True.
Which would be fantastic. And we don't know how that was all going to be, but legislation is in right now. And they have until, the end of March to decide if they're going to do this. And on this slide, there's 5 things that they're debating, right? Which would be good. I don't know. Eliminating or dramatically reducing property taxes for homestead homes in the non-school portion, right, of the tax bill. Exempting homeowners 65 plus from non-school property taxes. That's good as well. Phasing out non-school property taxes over a decade, part of a long-term plan to reduce reliance on property tax revenue. Seems a little more,
conservative, but forward thinking.
That's right. Very well said. Increasing homestead exemptions and expanding benefits like Save Our Homes protections. Thank you. Get my glasses on here right. Which we're going to mention in a minute. And limiting future assessments and burden shifts on local government through details and consensuses they're still working on involving.
Right.
Those are 5. So what can I do? I'm thinking about moving to Florida. I'm in Florida. Let's talk about it. I'm in Florida. Mm-hmm. Well, they're anticipating that you're going to have a vote in November because they're going to bring something to
the
us.
Table.
Right. The one that they're thinking out right now is phasing out the non-school property taxes on homesteads by increasing the exemption year to year, potentially eliminating them around 2037. So that steady, kind of time over time to get the resilience off of it.
And that conservative leaning, frankly, I think because cities, towns rely on those property taxes would be a good way to help them find other forms of income. Right.
I came from Illinois and we had at the time a 3% property tax. Mm-hmm. Here in Collier County, it's roughly 1% of the purchase.
Right.
The assessed value, blah, 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 all the math. And then I can homestead it. So, on $1 million home, your roughly starting point is $10,000. And if you homestead, we're going to talk about that in a minute. But if that money can come back in and you don't have to, how much more affordability if somebody that needs a mortgage could they get not paying that kind of taxes.
Because property taxes are part of what we look at when determining whether or not you qualify.
That's right. That's right. So what can you do? You can vote, pay attention to it. What we think is going to happen. So if you're on the edge and thinking about buying, we think that more and more people will pour into the state of Florida. Remember, we don't have income tax, state income tax living here. And now if they take away our property tax, wow, how much more affordable if you're retired could you get than the state of Florida?
Correct.
Which, if that's the case and people start rushing, you should buy now versus later because prices will go up.
I mean, then you're turning into another COVID situation, maybe not as extreme, but the draw for properties here will be higher, which will send the values higher.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, what is your current homestead benefits? I love talking about this, Cheryl, because you just had this situation happen.
I did.
Right. So you need to apply, and it's by the end of March, I think, of the year, March 15th. By the year that after you bought, so you bought in 25, you need to apply by March 15th of 26.
I'm lying. It's March 1st.
March 1st online.
March 1st. I apologize.
March 1st. So you have 2 months, month and a half now. So if you bought last year, make sure you get that. If you qualify as this
Get
is
your homestead filed.
This is your place, your residence.
If you buy on March 12th of this year, you cannot file homestead for 26. You can file it for 27.
Right.
So that's why this first 2 months of the year are important.
That's right. So again, we cap that annual increase in the assessed value to 3% or CPI, whichever is lower, which is crazy. Huge savings. Mine's capped, and I've been in my home for 20 years, and I couldn't pay fraction. I'm a fraction of what it would be.
Right, and that's something else that people need to look at when they're buying. And people don't understand when I say 2 houses on the same street built at the same time could have significantly different taxes based on the last purchase. If the purchase was 25 years ago, it has a tax. If it was purchased in 2021 at the peak, it has a completely different tax. So you have to really be aware of what you're buying in the big picture mathematically to understand it.
Yeah. And I always tell my people it's roughly 1%. Just, it doesn't matter what's on the paper.
Plan
roughly,
for that.
Plan for 1%. Portability lets you keep those savings. So if you're buying a bigger house, and we did a blog on it, Cheryl, and you can go out, you can YouTube it, you can go out to our site and look at it. But we walked through the math of the portability because not everyone can do it. It's up to $500,000. Right. Depends on how much you have in that account. But it can benefit the new residents.
Right. So that allows you to move your homestead from one home to the next home.
That's right. Deadlines matter. We just talked about that. You got to apply, as soon as you close your new home.
And listen, this is something that people just forget to do. I have clients repeatedly buying primary homes. I tell them to homestead. I tell them how to homestead, but they forget. And then if they're escrowing their taxes and insurance, and come December, they find out that their taxes went up and they don't know why. It's because when they purchased, it was a homestead rate. They didn't homestead, and now they're being taxed at a non-homestead rate because they forgot to file. So file your homestead.
File it. That's our service announcement. It's our snack. You got to wait and see what's happening. We can't wait. But on to what happened last year. So as we look back for the whole year, Cheryl, this is total sales. We are 25 was in between in most markets between 24 and 23, right? I think the only one that it wasn't in between with was actually Estero, which actually increased, which was fantastic, as did Marco, which is also fantastic. But the rest were, it was a good year. So let's talk about that. Now, homes for sale, this is inventory. And I choose to put this crazy chart in here. I'm going to show you what it was in December in a minute. But as you can see, the chart is going up, right? But here's what I think, and this is where my prognostication comes in. I love just saying that word, probably saying it wrong, is that when I look at December year over year for the past 3 years, it looks like we are actually have a little more less inventory than in 24.
Okay.
A little more inventory than in 23. So if I look at that, are we going to see that keep going up higher, or will it come back down to a more normal fashion? I submit that I think sales are going to be better. They were soft in the first quarter of last year. So therefore, the sales for us were very flat. They were very similar to the year we had before. I think people are going to come back based on what I've seen in these first 22 days. So you can tell we're recording here on January 22nd. We saw a really good uptick in the first couple weeks of January. How about you?
Yep, we're getting all kinds of phone calls. I think people are entering back into the market. I think they've waited as long as they can wait.
Right.
You know, they were waiting for all these predictions, good or bad, based on the news, and none of those predictions actually occurred on either extreme. We're just in a market. We're just in the market, and if you need to move, just do it.
Just do it. That's right. Or want to move, right? I mean, get that second home, whatever that you want to do. Retirement home. Median price, maybe it's ticked down a little bit, but it's really within reason, in my opinion. And that could be some really good deals that were had because we had a soft first quarter.
Right.
July was really strong, but that's usually our first home, our more resident home market.
Right. But it's not some drastic fall.
No.
Everybody's been waiting for the fall.
Right.
It's just not there.
And that doesn't mean, that could have just meant we sold more well-priced homes than luxury. These are averages across them all.
Right.
So I personally think the market is doing really well when it comes to pricing. Feel that in addition, as it looks forward, I think we're going to see the same thing. I've seen homes, Cheryl, on the market that people would come in and say, it's overpriced. And now they're coming in and say, wow, this is really nice. So, wow, two different sides of the coin. Days on market. Yes, we have more days on market than we've had before because we do have more inventory. You have to be well priced in the market in order for things to sell. The property has to look good for that price that you've got.
Yes.
Or you got to price it appropriately.
There is I believe, and you tell me, because you talk to them while they're in the houses looking, I believe due to social media and a lot of other reasons, there's a higher expectation level of value versus price because there's so much inventory and they're looking at everything online every day. So if they have in their mind a set of expectations of what they're going to get for that price.
They do. In a slice of the market, the buyer, because of the online availability of homes, has a really good feel. And honestly, don't want to overpay. We're just not in that. And we're seeing things where they come in really low, and through good negotiations, we've brought them together on a price where the buyer is still a buyer and the seller is still a seller. Because that's the deal. It doesn't matter what the market says.
That's the deal. And buyers will say that to me. They're working with a realtor, but they're out there doing their own research, and they will say that to me often. My fear is that I'll overpay.
Yeah.
I want to be sure that I'm not going to overpay.
Yeah, they're afraid of the Great Recession again, It's crazy. So last couple of slides, Cheryl, I always like to do median percent of last list price. This was for the month of December. And you can see that although, some are up, some are down, we're in that 4 to 6%.
Yep.
In that range, which is not bad. So if you're not getting showings, you're probably 5% off. And then showings to a pending. I like people to understand this because let's face it, to get a showing to a pending, this is actually wrong. This is not showing to a pending. This is showings for the month. And this is in the month. Most of our homes are only getting under 3 showings in a month.
That's not very many buyers.
That is not very many buyers looking at properties. So know how many showings you're getting. What is the feedback? That should all be coming to you if you're listed online with another agent. Our clients get that automatically. They're talking to me or one of our team on a very regular basis so they understand what is happening in the market, what's happening with their home, and to come to a strategy together.
Right.
So Cheryl, as we close this out, My question is it time to move?
I believe it's always time to move.
Yes.
You know, for whichever reason, downsize, upsize, relocation, second home, you're just tired of your house and you want a new one. You know, whatever the reason is, it's always time to move if you can make it work for you.
Yeah. Says a woman who's moved 3 times in the last little bit of time. Says a woman that's been in a house for 25 years. Apparently, I have not had a reason to move.
She's not within the norm.
Not the norm. Anyway, she said it best. We can't wait to see you next month. Again, we think 26 is going to be a phenomenal year. A lot of homes that are going to be sold. Pretty steady. No ups, no downs. Interest rates, pretty steady. You know, so if it is that time, you know, we'd love to talk to you. So until next time, I'm Mary Bartos with the Bartos Group of Premier Plus Realty.
I'm Cheryl Stokes, New American Funding.
And we look forward to seeing you next month or when you're in town, maybe moving.